Yeah, welcome to the Weege Show. This is the press box in Lucas Oil Stadium in downtown Indianapolis, home of Lucas Oil, actually. Yes, that's an Indiana-based company, so that's why they decided to put their name on this building, or it's why they were willing to write the big check to put their name on this building. But we're not talking about Lucas Oil Pro Motocross. We are talking about Monster Energy Supercross. For the first time this year, the riders and teams actually had time to go home, work on their bikes, reset themselves after the 3-day tilt in Houston, and here we are in Indy. I will intersperse some clips from today's press day riding in along with my narrative for the Weege Show, all brought to you by Honda and the Talon Sport Side-By-Side, available in two models, both with 1,000 cc of power and an exclusive dual clutch transmission with the really cool paddle shifters. But more importantly, with the X and R model, you're picking between the more narrow machine, which you can take on the technical East Coast trails, or the R, which has massive suspension travel for handling the whoops out west. Find out why life is better side by side with a Honda Talon. So let's talk a little bit about what we will see this weekend with the reset. Now, I'm very curious myself. When we left Houston, the big story was Dean Wilson and Ken Roczen, and it's very strange how much it was flipped. We went from Wilson, why did he ignore the blue flag? Why did he get out of the way? Was it some sort of evil conspiracy where Roger DeCoster said Cooper Webb races for KTM, and we can so carefully plan this race that we know by the last lap Webb will be behind the race leader and you will be getting lapped and then get in the way. That was the story for a few days, and then somehow it seems to have flipped on the fan side to be a little bit anti-Roczen. Because remember, Roczen did jump on a red cross flag at round 2. He got penalized for that, and he made the mistake of saying, I'm not going to be super mad at Dean, but you have to be aware of your surroundings regarding the blue flags. And then some people took Kenny to task for saying, well, you missed the flags yourself. So that drama really changed from, you heard people mad at Wilson to people mad at Roczen, and now it's probably completely dead, and we need to move on. And to put a point on that, Dean Wilson actually announced today on Instagram he got hurt on Wednesday while riding. It looks like he broke his toe and hurt his knee, luckily not major knee damage, and he wasn't planning on racing. Now he says he's going to show up here in Indy and give it a go. The Rockstar Husky team was not part of press day today, so I didn't get to see him ride anyway. So hopefully that's a bunch of drama from last week left behind, and some new drama for Wilson dealing with an injury. As for the rest of the field, there are definitely some riders that needed that reset. I'm actually going to start right at the top with the defending Monster Energy Supercross champion. A little surprised what we saw from Eli Tomac there in Houston. He did win a race, that was good, but at no point did we see the Eli's the fastest guy. Now that leads us to a real fork in the road. Beginning races of the season have never necessarily been Tomac's forte, so maybe you say to yourself he's 6 points down in the series despite a terrible opener. That's a win. He gets better as the series goes on. Around mid-season is when he usually really has things settled, and maybe he's in a perfect position. Or are we saying, look, these guys have caught up. Eli's been, in my opinion at least, the best guy on track in 17, 18, 19, and 20. He just didn't win all the titles, but when he was on, he was unbeatable. Are we just saying that we moved on from that and these other guys have him covered now? That's a real dilemma that we're going to have to figure out week to week. And it might change as soon as we go racing here at Indy. As for Roczen, he was on point. I think any questions we had about the time off from Motocross and the new Honda, he's answered them. He didn't win any of the races. He is the points leader. He should have a much bigger points lead if it wasn't for the red cross flag penalty and, of course, losing that lead late to Webb by being held up by Wilson. And everyone's saying that Ken lost 7 points with the 4-point violation on the red cross and the 3 points that he lost being held up by Wilson. But remember, he not only lost 3 points on the last lap, Cooper Webb gained 3. And if those two end up battling for the title, which is certainly possible, you could be looking at a 6-point swing in the championship between those two riders. So that is huge, 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 huge. So the question is, how can Kenny bounce back? I tend to believe that riders don't necessarily ride better when they're angry. I think everything we've seen indicated by Kenny this year is he's trying to not get too caught up in the highs and lows. I mentioned it before the season began. I mentioned it after round 1. He's trying to take everything in stride. That new mental game plan has certainly been taken to test with these last couple of races. But I think the best move for Roczen, and probably what you're going to see, is him just treating this like any other race and not a revenge tour with anger after what happened in Houston. Another rider to mention is Justin Barcia. I know that you could look on paper and say it's the classic start to the season for Barcia. He wins a race and he doesn't win any others, but he was really good actually at the other 2 races. He had the speed to run with anybody at Houston. 3, just had a bad start, and he was catching the lead trio, Sean Cerullo, Webb, and Roczen at one point. He went down in the sand, but if you're Barcia, I think you were chomping at the bit to get out here. I really thought the starts were going to be absolutely back on point for Barcia here in 2021. What I saw at the opener, it's kind of a return to the old Barcia days when he was lightning quick off the start. But it didn't manifest itself in the second 2 races. I think on average he's going to get more good starts than bad this year, so he's due for a good one. And if he gets one, he has the speed to get it done, and I would not be surprised to see Barcia finally get that you only win the first race monkey off his back. A couple other riders to mention. Marvin Musquin, I think, was sneaky good at the first 3. Kind of the same thing as Barcia. It's like it's going to average out. He crashed at round 2. He was down early at round 3. That's not going to happen in every race. He's going to have clean races, and when he does, he's going to be podium bound like he was at round 1. Which leads us to talk about the dirt here at Indy, because normally it's very soft and rutted, and we're actually here earlier in the year than we usually are. So I thought it was going to be almost a disaster as far as wet, soppy dirt and ruts, but it did not turn out that way on press day. It was actually pretty clean. There are ruts in the transitions and the faces, but that's to be expected. But it didn't look outrageously bad, and the dirt didn't look outrageously wet. So I think if you're a Musquin fan, you got to like what you see here. It's going to be technical. It's going to be rutted. So it's probably going to be good for him, but I don't think it's going to be a game changer as far as how rutted it's going to be. But we'll see. It's going to get probably even more dry as we have a couple more races in the stadium on Tuesday and Saturday. But at least for now, it's not going to be a rut fest like we thought. Those whoops on the right side of the stadium are super big, and we'll see how that affects the guys. Right now, they look totally blitzable, but I think the dirt, even though it's not as soft as usual, will be soft enough where they can turn into jumpers, and that'll change the game halfway through the main. So those are a couple guys to watch, but the real fear, I feel, is with Webb. When Webb gets on a roll, when Webb gets things dialed in, he's pretty hard to stop, and they had him on the ropes. The first 2 races were not that good. He got it rectified at round 3. Even a second would have been a nice bounce back. He ends up getting the win instead. That's dangerous to me to know that he's right on point. And it brings us all the way back to where I left off at our post-race show of round 3. It appears to be a very deep field where anything can happen and anybody can win. But it's usually around this rounds 3, 4, 5 juncture where you actually see the true championship contenders establish themselves. That's why we don't end up every year, we start with saying 10 guys can win, 12 guys can win, and it doesn't turn out that way. So this is pivotal. These 3 rounds in Indy, you're going to know by the time we leave this city in 1 week who's in it and who's out of it. A lot of guys are going to have to respond. Zach Osborne, he's been super fast. He's been very unlucky. He's gone 10-10-9. The Yamaha guys have been good. Ferrandis, Plessinger, and Malcolm Stewart all have things to be happy about after the first 3, but they haven't yet shown. We need more data to know if they're actually going to be genuine title threats. They have to prove that over the next 3. Really want to watch Plessinger here in this building. He's usually very good on the rutted tracks, and for some reason, I guess because he's from Ohio, and that's the neighboring state, he's won a lot of races in Indiana, both Motocross and Supercross, oddly. One in this building actually was his first ever Supercross win, going back about 5 years ago. So maybe this is the breakthrough that Plessinger's looking for. And Ferrandis, it's up and down. He was very good at round 2. Wasn't able to replicate that at round 3. So we just need more data to see if those guys are in it for the championship long haul. It is the first season for that Monster Energy Star Racing Yamaha team, so it's hard to say if this is going to be even what their goals are. Maybe it's just to get some podiums and wins, not necessarily battle for the title. So I think by the time we leave this stadium in Indy, we are going to see who are genuine title threats, who's in and who's out. Just got a text from, yes, Justin Brayton. He rode press day today. He said it's soft, but it's not typical Indy soft. So that's what we wanted to hear. Track should be beat up and difficult, but not unrideable, and should lead to some good racing. So we'll see you here Saturday. And again, thanks to Honda and the Talon Sport Side-By-Side. Find out why life's better side-by-side. I don't have any with me right now. It is better by yourself if the alternative is having Matthes sit next to you in the press box, which will be the case tomorrow night. Otherwise, you're better off having someone with you. So get a Honda Talon and do that.